Josh Jackson and Jarrett Allen, two of the four undeclared players in the country that are on the rosters tonight. Marquise Bolden is undeclared as well. He is part of the West reserves. The starting lineup for the East features Terrence Ferguson, who is undeclared as well. Jason Tatum, one of the best players in the nation, is on his way to do. And a couple of Kentucky Wildcats, and De'Aaron Fox and Bam Adebayo. East reserves look like this. Miles Bridges on his way to play for Tom Izzo and Michigan State. Udoka Azubuike, big body, playing for Kansas.
Talk about how the McDonald's All-Americans are represented in the Final Four. We have 8 participating in the Final Four. 5 for North Carolina, 1 for Villanova, 0 for Oklahoma.
That's right.
And then 2 for Syracuse, led by Malachi Richardson, who we saw last year.
Here is Tony Bradley Jr., future North Carolina Tar Heel, showing off a little bit of the range from Florida. Number 3 center in the country, breaks the scoring seal.
Big-time prospect with Joel James and Bryce Johnson, both graduating from North Carolina. Him and Isaiah Hicks, if Isaiah Hicks doesn't choose to leave early, they once again form a great front court for the Tar Heels.
Terrence Ferguson running the floor. It's thrown away by Bradley. I want to go back quickly to something you just said, Jay. There has not been a team since 1978 on the men's side that has won a national championship without an All-American on its roster, except for 2 teams. 2002, the Maryland Terrapins, and the 2014 Connecticut Huskies. That's it. Every other roster since 78 has had a McDonald's All-American of the championship.
That's what makes this an amazing proving ground. When you look through NBA rosters, multiple McDonald's All-Americans, and you talked about UNCJ, 66 McDonald's All-Americans in the history of the program. That's the most all-time.
What do you like about De'Aaron Fox? He's 5 in black right now. He's on his way to Kentucky as Jason Tatum takes the jumper.
De'Aaron Fox reminds me a lot of John Wall. You're hearing some John Wall comparisons. He's a lefty. There's a game this year where he had 50 points, and he's so dynamic with the basketball. He's brilliant to watch in transition. That's good. Think about what Cal's been able to create, having the top recruiting class once again.
Yeah.
I mean, Tyler Ulis is going to go, and De'Aaron Fox is going to come in and not miss a beat.
Ball belongs to the West in white.
I should say everybody for Kentucky is going to go because Cal made them all eligible for the NBA draft. Once again, a brilliant marketer.
And how about this? There are teams that haven't had a McDonald's All-American in I don't know how long. UK has had 4 in the last handful of seasons in each recruiting class.
Yes. Wow.
2011, 13, 14. It is just amazing how they continue to not only rebuild but reload.
And Malik Monk, he's the top overall shooting guard in the class, and I'm telling you right now, Bam Adebayo, his first name is Bam for a reason, because everything he does when it comes to the rim, he's trying to dunk everything. He has a crazy fast twitch muscle. You've seen him right here with the basketball.
This is him. This is Adebayo.
This is Adebayo. I mean, that's the versatility that he can bring to the front court for the Wildcats next year. And by the way, you talk about finishing through contact. He will finish you and throw you into the 3rd row of the stands.
Picked Kentucky over NC State and Auburn. He picked him on Mike and Mike live in November. You talked about his shoulders, his build. He's lean, but he's big. This is a guy who maybe a year from now we're talking about as a #1 potential draft pick in the NBA.
Well, when you have that size, he's 6'10", he's 240. That's where the game is going now. A positionless basketball. You have to be able to do multiple things on both ends of the floor.
I tell you, he starts making that mid-range jump shot, there's going to be trouble for everybody. Going to High Point Christian Academy. And I really think a year at a prep school did wonders for him, just spending time away from home. He was a little bit homesick, but that's only going to help him next year when he plays at Kentucky.
Tony Bradley has 4 of the 5 points for the East. This is Lonzo Ball, 2 in white, going to UCLA. Excellent point guard. You love his vision. He and TJ Leaf, 22, are both going to UCLA.
How about Lonzo Ball averaging a triple-double at his high school? A triple-double. They were 35-0 this year. And the thing that really impressed me about him yesterday in the scrimmage, and Jalen, you can appreciate this, there's nothing better than having a point guard that always looks to make the right play.
And playing winning basketball, sometimes you see elite-level players, but you look down at their team's record, and there's a lot of struggle there. So for him to have that success in a team concept and still average a triple-double, I agree with you. That's amazing.
35-0, as Jay mentioned, at Chino Hills High School. He got to play with both of his younger brothers, who are high-level recruits for the future as well. His brother, a junior, LiAngelo, and a freshman in LaMelo, who's the smallest of those 3.
And by the way, he's not just barely averaging a triple-double. The guy is averaging 25 points, 12 rebounds, and 13 assists per game. Now, UCLA only loses Tony Parker, You know, we don't know if Isaac Hamilton is going to actually leave for the draft or not, but you talk about Aaron Holiday, Prince Ali, Bryce Alford, Thomas Welsh, Isaiah Hamilton. You get him back with the top 5 recruiting class.
A lot of guys around him, right?
They can go. I mean, he'll make everybody better on that team.
You'll hear more about him during our halftime segment during this McDonald's All-American game. You'll get a chance to further meet Lonzo Ball. Josh Jackson, one of the best undeclared players in the country. There's 4 of them in this McDonald's game. Thinking about Michigan State, Kansas, and Arizona. He's from Southfield, Michigan.
He is, and Tom Izzo has done a terrific job with this program of building, not necessarily through the McDonald's All-American game. Now we see him getting a couple of signees, and he's doing a terrific job. If he's able to acquire him, that's going to be a big-time get to go with the 2 guys he already signed.
Another undeclared player, Terrence Ferguson, who originally committed to Alabama. He has opened up his recruitment process ever since. He's got about 5 or 6 schools that he's looking at right now, and he gets the easy flush from Fox.
Extremely, extremely athletic, a big-time deep threat from the 3-point line. I tell you, talk about some of the schools he's looking at Kansas. You know, Wayne Selden, Brandon Green have both decided to leave early for the draft. Wayne Selden, you know, potentially could be a 2nd-round pick, but has signed with an agent. I can't knock a player for whatever his decision is. He wants to get his money. Best of luck to him. But you talk about this young man can come in and potentially fill that void as well. Also looking at Arizona.
Still maybe potentially thinking about Alabama, but let me give you a little bit of perspective. If he's in Avery Johnson's class, Alabama is number 13 in terms of recruiting class in the nation. Without him, they're out of the top 40.
Avery's done a terrific job.
He has,
in just
man.
1 season turning around that program, beating multiple ranked teams this year. That program is on the come up.
You know what, yesterday at practice, I got a chance to ask multiple kids, hey, what are your thoughts on the Ben Simmons situation compared to what Kentucky was 2 years ago? And the consensus was a lot of kids were saying, I'd rather be part of the Super PAC. I'd rather be part of a squad like Kentucky than be like Ben Simmons and try to go out and do it on my own and then just deal with the criticism and the scrutiny each and every day.
But also, too, I think the Ben situation was an anomaly because his godfather's on the coaching staff. Though he's going to be the #1 pick in the draft, he was ineligible for the Wooden Award. I think he's the first and only player that's going to happen to.
Look at
so, wow, moving people out of the way. That's what I'm talking about, big fella.
Bam, Adebayo using those big shoulders. Jarrett Allen at the other end of the floor with the follow flush.
Good speed, good penetration, collapses the defense. And all of a sudden, your offensive rebounders can play volleyball.
They gave it to Allen, but I mean, Jackson could argue it too, I guess. That's like you two going up for a loose ball in practice.
Well, I'll be the first guy. He'd be the second guy coming to flush the toilet.
Well, only took 4 minutes for the first bathroom reference. That's what I was looking for, boys. This is why I love working with you guys. You don't realize it. Josh Jackson slipping the double team and lost the handle on it. Good hustle to save it.
Hey, guys, I really like the pace of this game.
Me too. And there's Allen again with another dunk.
How about that pass out there by Malik Monk?
I really like the pace of this game. And what allows you to do that is when you have multiple players that can dribble, pass, and shoot, and actually compete on both ends.
Fox got it knocked away by Ball. Passing. That's the guy who does it to Josh Jackson.
Can I just tell you right away, I like the energy here. We actually have people competing on the defensive end. How many times do you watch a McDonald's All-American game where people are letting them go and dunk, but no, kids are actually out here trying to get stops and digging down.
When you compete, that's when the game doesn't get sloppy.
That's what NBA scouts want to see. They want to see those kinds of faces. These are the faces of the competitors of tomorrow.
The West with 5 field goals, 3 are dunks. They lead by 1. We're having some fun tonight in Chicago.
Representing the 8-1-0.
One of the undeclared players in the country, thinking about Michigan State, Kansas, and Arizona. He says in his head he already knows where he wants to go from Southfield, Michigan.
I got you.
I wouldn't be surprised a fellow Michigander knowing where he wants to go, but he wants to kind of string everybody along, make everybody sweat.
Well, there's some pressure on him from the Michigan State side. You got Joshua Langford, who's known him for a while. Miles Bridges, who's also known him for a while. And they're all from Michigan. Even another player who's not here, Cassius Winston, who's one of the top 10 point guards in the country as well. All going to Michigan, all trying to recruit him, all trying to get Josh Jackson to stay at home to become the next Flintstones for Tom Izzo.
Part of that great line of players from the state of Michigan, from the Flint area specifically, like Miles Bridges. Josh Jackson is with our Quinn Kessnick.
We just got moved out of our spot on the bench by the coaches. Kind of said, no, you can't sit there. Josh, how would you describe, first of all, that first shift. You guys come off huffing and puffing, dealing with a lot of anxiety, it seems.
Oh, yeah, we come out every 4 minutes, but, you know, we're out there playing as hard as we can. We're all competitive kids, and we just want to win. So, you know, we're going to do whatever we can to make that happen. So we're out there playing as hard as we can. Of course, we're going to be tired.
Michigan State, Kansas, and Arizona. Have you taken visits to all three yet?
Yes, I have.
And anything stand out in terms of where you felt most comfortable?
You know, well, all were amazing places, and, you know, I felt pretty comfortable at all of them. What it's coming down to now is pretty much just being somewhere that I can trust everybody that I'm around. You know, I want to trust my coaching staff, my teammates, you know, staff at the school. I think that's going to be the biggest deciding factor in, you know, my upcoming decision.
Who's influential in helping you make that decision?
Oh, definitely my mom. My mom has always been there since day one. You know, if it weren't for her, I wouldn't even be here today. She's the reason I'm a McDonald's All-American. There's been times where I've, you know, wanted to quit basketball. I've been very depressed, but, you know, she's always been strong for me, and for that I could never thank her as much as, you know, anything.
What has she said to you to keep you in the game?
Just always keep trying, and, you know, not to let anybody tell me that, you know, there's something that I can't do, because I can do anything that I set my mind to.
How proud of you is she right now at this moment?
Oh, extremely proud. You know, it makes me really happy to see that I made her proud, and, you know, that's pretty much all I've been wanting to do my whole entire life, is to make everyone proud of me, and I feel like I've been doing a good job of that lately, but I just need to keep it up.
Yes, you do, Josh. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good stuff, guys.
And I love the tribute to his mom. It's kind of like Tupac. He appreciated the way that she raised him and all the extra love that she gave him.
That was so Machiavellian of you just then. I love it.
But I'll be remiss, and we talked a lot about Flint, and I'm not going to get political in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just disgusted about the water crisis that is taking place, and I applaud so many that have donated their time, their energy, and their money to the water crisis, in particular Pistons owner Tom Gores, who's out to raise $10 million for the cause. And I'm also just disgusted that the major players in that situation are still employed, receiving checks from the state. It's just disappointing, but I'm pretty sure that they'll find a way to have that resilience that they've always had.
Dealing with that lead-contaminated water system in the city of Flint right now. Monte Morris, the Iowa State guard, has done a lot to try to help that cause as well. Zach Collins on his way to Gonzaga hits a three.
I think what Gonzaga's going to lose, they're going to lose a lot. Shinnick Karnowski is gone. Kyle Wilcher's gone. DeMontis Sabonis is potentially thinking about leaving to become a pro. And it leaves a great opportunity for Collins to come in. Josh Perkins comes back. They have Nigel Williams-Goss, who transferred from Washington. He'll be able to play. So the Zags will once again probably maybe be the favorite in the WCC.
They were just here this past weekend here in Chicago at the United Center. That comeback from Syracuse, a couple of them by the Orange. Big boy putting it down. Udoka Azubuike. This is somebody you want to watch. On his way to Kansas, 6'11", 270 throwing it down.
You talk about carving out space. He carves out space every time. And look, there's always a challenge when you drive down the lane and you see somebody with that size and that frame to protect the rim. They lose Kansas. Perry Ellis, he graduates. Jamari Traylor graduates as well. So he can fill that void down low. Also, Chuck Diallo decides to leave early for the draft.
You know, Landon Lucas had such a impressive blossoming job this season at Kansas in the front court. Udoka could immediately make an impact on the front court.
Absolutely. And that's what's going to be needed in Kansas. They've done a terrific job. I don't know a lot of other schools, Duke, Kentucky, Arizona comes to mind. They consistently recruit McDonald's All-Americans. But I'll tell you, Bill Self is right up there. He continues to reload as well.
They're currently the number 14 class. I think that surprises a lot of people, but they only have 2 recruits right now. If they were to get Josh Jackson, our ESPN recruiting staff tells me they could jump up to the number 6 class. That's the type of impact that Josh Jackson could make for a team. Miles Bridges taking the 3, can't knock it down. And here comes Frank the Tank Jackson. Ends up turning it over, though. On the run out, Markelle Fultz leaving it back for Bridges to throw it down with some authority and flair. On his way to Michigan State.
Chose Michigan State over Kentucky and Indiana, an athletic combo forward. And think about how he brings an intensity to the table for Tom Izzo, him and Joshua Langford from Huntsville, Alabama. And this might be the best recruiting class Tom Izzo has had in 10 years since he had Jason Richardson and Zach Randolph.
Paul Biancardi, our director of national recruiting, who's getting set for the Dix Nationals, he said just that this is one of Tom Izzo's greatest classes ever as Marquise Bolden puts in his second field goal.
And that's the challenge for these elite coaches across the country that have been with their programs decades. Some, you look down at the resume and you realize, just one championship.
Yeah.
How can we keep up with Coach K, having to recruit players like this? I like the unselfishness right there.
Potential top 10 play right here.
Markelle Fultz on his way to Washington, and Miles Bridges. 3 field goals, 3 dunks. 12 to go here in this first half. A 6-point lead for the West. We'll show you a little bit of what happened the other night from the Chicago Theater, which was the home for the Powerade Jam Fest. That building's been around at State and Lake since 1921. They never saw anything like what we saw the other night. One of the great stages in one of the great cities in the country into a basketball court, and we had a ball watching the McDonald's All-American Game Week start off with the Powerade Jam Fest on Monday night. Frank Jackson won it all. Kyle Guy, the 3-1-7 dunk, did some damage too. That was fun, guys.
Kyle Guy actually tried to get the last dunk from the balcony and just couldn't pull it off, but was very close with it. You talk about Frank Jackson, he was just so explosive, and you talk about some of the notable winners of the McDonald's All-American Slam Dunk competition. Grayson Allen, Avery Bradley, Blake Griffin.
And big shout to Candace Parker being on that list.
For sure. Exactly, yeah.
Chi-Town's finest.
Marquise Bolden is undeclared, working in the post against Bradley, who grabs the rebound. Here's Jason Tatum on his way to Duke, number 2 player in the country, behind Harry Giles, who tore his ACL back in September, so he wasn't able to participate in these games and in the season this year. But they're both going to Duke, so the top 2 players in the nation on their way to Shasheskyville this coming season.
Shout out to Harry Giles, number 1 player in the country.
Yeah,
we have to find a way to kind of change that. If a player is hurt, he should still be able to be here and experience the overall process of working with the kids at the Ronald McDonald House and things of that sort.
Absolutely, because the game is just that, but there's so many life lessons. And as you mentioned, the Ronald McDonald House visit that, he's earned the opportunity to participate in.
Guy to Jackson to DeJuan Huell. All ACC teaming up there, and Zach Collins out on the West Coast throws it down.
The ACC collapsed the Big East, has become a super conference. Have, 7 of the 16 teams in the Sweet 16. Nice move, nice handle.
You were talking about Harry Giles, guys, number 1 player in the country. He's so talented. Tore his ACL in non-contact drills.
And both knees over the last 4 years.
Just awful to hear about what's happened to the young man, but we're looking forward to seeing him in college next year.
Got a chance to talk to Jeff Capel, and he was saying one of the best things that the NCAA allowed him to do was to start his rehab process at Duke. So he's at rehab 2 to 3 times a week. He's doing a lot more in the strength and conditioning. And there's something, you don't get that kind of attention when you're on a high school level, just going to everyday therapy. But the amount of attention you get when you're actually in a facility, you have professional trainers who are able to help you each and every day, it provides wonders for you.
Absolutely, and confidence. You're getting exposed to the collegiate campus. You mentioned the training, but just the learning and being a sponge around that atmosphere.
4-point lead for the West, nearly halfway through the first. Here's Josh Jackson, and undeclared. We've talked about him a lot, and understandably so.
Well, he's declared. He's just not telling us.
That's right. He says he knows where he wants to go. He teams up with another undeclared player in Jared Allen for the 2.
Speaking of declaring, players should be able to declare for the NBA draft out of high school. We need to stop this whole thing about forcing the kid to go to school for 1 year. All you got to do is pass the first semester, people. Just real talk. Pass the first semester. Everything else takes care of itself.
So isn't it kind of an insult to the college game and to the college system, to the educational system, where you can't go straight from high school to the NBA anymore? Your thought on that, Jalen?
Well, the head-scratching part for me has always been it only really occurs in 2 sports. That's basketball and football.
Yep.
It doesn't really occur like that in hockey and NASCAR and golf and tennis.
Baseball, you can go out of high school or you have to go to school for a couple of years, 3 years.
Those 2 sports also have salary caps. And they also have contract restrictions. Just food for thought.
Josh Langford on the hustle to the rim. Langford on his way to Michigan State as well. Well, I watched my alma mater do some good stuff last night. Unfortunately, Steve Fisher, tough game because George Washington played so well. But it'll be GW and Valpo in the NIT Championship tomorrow at 7 Eastern. And then we'll follow it up with the Slam Dunk and three-point contest from Houston in preparation for Final Four weekend. Both of those available on ESPN. Watch ESPN and the ESPN app.
I like that we showed up for an all-star game and a basketball game broke out.
Isn't that refreshing?
They're actually being competitive, sharing the basketball, competing on the defensive end, giving up good shots to get great shots.
Hey, Jay, one last thing on that last topic we were discussing. A lot of people say, hey, go back to school for your education. And is the education you're actually getting applicable to you being successful once you leave, considering the schedule a lot of these young athletes have? When you're going to practice from, or you're getting preseason conditioning workout from 6 a.m. until 8:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you have off for an hour, you go to classes, and you come back for shoot, you're getting shots up from 3 until 4:30, then you have practice from 5 until 7, and then you're dog tired because you've been up since 6 o'clock in the morning. You go to study hall for an hour. I mean, it's almost in a way you hear Mark Emmert talk about, the business of athletic institutions. If you're calling the athletic institutions businesses, then that means you're saying essentially that the players are employees. Just saying.
That's very well taken, guys. We were talking about Michigan State, their recruiting class coming up. Miles Bridges, part of it. He's with Quinn Kesnick.
Two emphatic dunks on your first shift. How would you describe the start that you were able to get off?
I'm feeling good. I'm just trying to give the fans what they want to see.
Jalen talked about Flint. That's your hometown. What's it been like? I know you went to Huntington Prep away, but what's it been like back home for the folks?
I mean, I'm trying to do all I can do for Flint, the Flint water crisis. I'm just trying to be a role model to the kids and help out the community. I mean, I love my city, so I'll do anything for them. When
Coach Izzo rings your phone, what was most appealing about, his recruiting poll?
I mean, just how kind he was. He's a great man. He truly loves his players, and you can just say a lot about Coach Izzo. He's just a great coach.
Yesterday you talked about toughness and playing defense and how much pride. Where does that pride come from in your toughness and your defense?
Because I like playing defense. I like locking people up. I look at Kawhi as an inspiration, and if somebody scores on me, I get mad. So.
You get mad. Continued success tonight, Miles. Nice job, Adam.
I'm a big fan of this kid. His mom, Cynthia, wanted Miles away from the poverty and violence of Flint, but he always said, I'm going to come back and try to do what I can for my city, and he's part of that long line of Flint players to go play for Tom Izzo. Antonio Smith, Mo Peterson, Mateen Cleaves, Charlie Bell. He's talked to a lot of those guys, and they have been a big influence on his decision to make sure he comes back to Michigan State.
And how about the biggest thing he just said? I love when I hear athletes that say they want to be role models. They want to be role models. I mean, that's a huge responsibility to accept, to live your life every single day and to do the right thing for young kids out there, as you see Allen with the dunk.
Kawhi Leonard, a guy who was somewhat unheralded at San Diego State, has worked his way into arguably the best defensive player in the NBA right now.
Yes, we had the same college coach as Steve Fisher, and what he always raved about was his work ethic, the kind of guy that you basically had to lock the gym to get him out of there. And we've seen him continue to evolve as a player. How about this? He has a chance to enter the historic NBA's 50 from the floor, 40 from 3, 90 from the line. The other 6 members of that class are offensive wizards and have been their entire careers. For a guy that's a defensive-oriented player and is going to be back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year, to join that class, it's a testament to his work ethic.
8 minutes to go first half. De'Aaron Fox, the floater, the rim roller, and it won't go down. And here comes Josh Jackson.
Speaking of Kawhi, can we just get to the Western Conference Finals already so we can see the winner of the NBA? So we can see the winner of the NBA Finals.
Well, I just wish the NBA eventually goes to open seeding. Best 16 teams, 1 through 16, and you get the 2 best teams in the NBA Finals.
I like that.
VJ King was on his way to Louisville from Fairfax, Virginia, going to Louisville. Look at this pass. Look at that throwdown. Jackson to Monk. Malik Monk, who won the three-point contest a couple of nights ago, able to show out the elevation in the throwdown.
Kentucky fans be like, goodbye, Jamal Murray. Hello, Malik Monk.
First 2 points of the night. He's also had 3 assists as well.
But that's what can't get underestimated about these players, the versatility. On one hand, you see him inside finishing over the top of the hoop, catching a lob. And then the other hand, you see him outside shooting the 3 with accuracy.
You guys saw it. We'll relive it for a second right here. Josh Jackson, beautiful touch pass opposite side of the rim. And Malik Monk from Bentonville, Arkansas, able to throw it down. One of the best things about this class is the small forward position. Josh Jackson, Jason Tatum, Miles Bridges. All these guys are part of a very impressive small forward class. We'll discuss more on the other side from Chicago. PN app. Get a look at Jack Doss out of J.O. Johnson High School in Huntsville. 8-time state champion. Found out he'd be the coach in November, but had to keep it secret until January. And then Dale Mabry from Pleasure Ridge Park High School in Louisville. Second winningest boys coach in Kentucky history behind Billy Hicks. Over 900 career wins.
I got to share a secret, and it's based on the graphic we just shown.
Hit me.
I love the UConn Husky women's hoops program and what Gino has done. A lot of people wonder if our dynasty's good. Were the Celtics dynasty with Bill Russell, was that good for the game?
It's pretty good.
It was. UCLA with Lou Alcindor, it's good for the game. It ups the ante, catch up. I appreciate greatness, and anytime a class can win 4 straight championships, they're doing a terrific job. So I'm rooting for them to get it done this year.
By the way, when the point differential in games are 40 and 50 points, I mean, they're blowing people out. They're just not barely passing by teams. They're dominating teams.
But these guys out here playing in this game, if you go back and look some of their box scores from the season, they played on high school teams that wiped the floor with the opponents as well.
It's just
points
up on another level.
Absolutely. That's what happens when you recruit the best. You're well prepared and you're getting it done.
The development that UConn staff does that forces coaches to try to develop better, and that's something fun to watch, despite some of the tweets that certain people throw out there and might think. DeJuan Hewell met at the summit by Miles Bridges, who ends up getting tagged with a foul. Jalen, you guys have touched on some subjects that I think are important. I really believe that these are important subjects to the game of basketball from the high school level on up. Should you be allowed to jump from the high school level straight to the NBA? Real J. Williams says yes. You want to respond? Hashtag with McDAAG and tag ESPNU in your tweet. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
100%. A coach has the permission just to leave a program and go make money somewhere else, i.e. Jamie Dixon. Jamie Dixon was just at Pitt and decided to go to TCU because he got a 10-year, $30 million deal. Let me say it again, 10-year, $30 million deal. That's more than some NBA coaches are going to make. The college game is becoming bigger than almost the NBA game, in a way.
So much so, you see, even in football, collegiate coaches opting to stay in college versus going to the NBA because you get the same money and a lot more autonomy. I totally agree with you, Jay. Good hustle.
Fultz hustling back.
We talked about that defensive intensity. A lot of these plays are contested, as you saw Bridges contest, but get called for a foul on the previous play.
He went from the East Coast to the West Coast for his school selection, from Maryland all the way to the University of Washington, went coast to coast for the block right there with 5:40 to go.
I've seen Fultz on multiple draft boards in the top 15. He is that gifted athletically, and his basketball IQ is good. Know what else he's dynamic at? Understanding how to use a screen, a ball screen. He is brilliant at that. And Jay, as you know, everything in the NBA comes down at the end of a shot clock to how good of a guy do you have that can come up a ball screen and play off that.
Absolutely, because the game has changed from drop post and a lot of isolation.
Bridges
3 out and 2 in. It's 4 around 1.
Azubuike missed the layup. Azubuike will go to the line with a chance at a 3-point play. Real quick, buddy.
How about Azubuike when he gets the rebound? Nobody wants to touch him. People get out of his way.
They're scared of him. 55%, by the way, so far on our poll agree with you so far. I just want to bring that up with you. But look at this big boy doing work.
Here's the thing. He's trying to use his athleticism right now to jump over people. The thing he'll have to learn when he gets to the next level, he's going to have to use that huge upper body frame to start carving out space to get those offensive rebounds. Because, you know, you're playing right now, he's the biggest guy on the floor. But when he gets to the next level, not, you know, I'm talking about the NBA level, he's going to have guys the same size of him trying to carve out space as well.
And also when guys are swiping at it, got to keep your eyes big. You can't close your eyes. You lose the target. I think that's why he missed the first shot attempt.
And not bring that ball down. Imperative for big guys to keep that ball high so little guards can't swipe down it.
Tariq Gilbert is going to UConn, 24 in white. He's working through traffic and gets fouled on the move. Kevin Ollie He's getting the Georgia Player of the Year from Miller Grove High School, number 4 point guard in the nation, number 28 player overall in our ESPN 100.
I'm going to go back to this whole thing about even kids transferring for a second. So you talk about Kevin Stallings, who tried to block Sheldon Jeter from transferring from Vanderbilt, okay? Tried to block him from going from Vanderbilt to Pitt. He finally was able to get to Pitt. And now you talk about Pitt, Jamie Dixon leaves for TCU.
Guess who the new
and
coach
Kevin
is?
Stallings now gets hired by Pitt. And so the NCAA, he has to petition the NCAA to actually leave Pitt so he has in the midst of a year of school. I think it's outrageous that coaches can leave, but players have to serve almost in essence a suspension and miss school for a year if they want to transfer.
Sasha Kalea-Jones gets the 2. Gilbert looking for Huel and Azubuike.
But what happens on that level, Jay, you notice. Good move, big fella. Good fella. Keep your head up. Continue at the buffet. You got to keep your head up, big fella.
It ends up in the hands of Kobe Simmons, the future Arizona Wildcat, and it's a 3-point game.
Nice bounce, Kobe.
Kobe Simmons, TJ Leaf, both going to Arizona. Love the way Simmons defends, really gets after you.
Guy knocks down the 3 on his way to Virginia from Indianapolis.
49 states is basketball, but he from Indiana. Got to be able to shoot that thing.
More religion up there than anything else.
Absolutely.
On the push, here comes Alterique Gilbert. He's got Guy and
Heat
Baldwin.
check.
Guy for 3. Bridges snatches it down.
Kick it out.
I apologize for my comment before. TJ Leaf decommitted from Arizona. Now he's going to UCLA.
With Lonzo Ball.
Yes, my apologies.
Fultz with a 3. Gilbert's there for the rebound. 3:05 first half.
Such a gentleman. You apologize?
Just want to make sure. Just want to give UCLA and Steve Alford some credit here. Had a disappointing year, but they're going to bounce back next year with this great recruiting class.
Fultz to Kalea-Jones. Little Kentucky hang time from Lynchburg, Virginia.
But what you got to do on a play like that, you got to assess the situation and give it to the guy that's going to do the nastiest dunk.
The guys who do that are the guards. They're the ones who push the pace. And they're trying to find who the guys are that need to get the ball at the rim. Here's some of the best guards in the country. Frank Jackson, Lonzo Ball going to UCLA, De'Aaron Fox on his way to Kentucky. Just a sampling of the talent. We've got more of it coming up on the other side from Chicago. Coming up, we've got the Dick's Sporting Goods High School Nationals. The final will be at Madison Square Garden on Saturday at noon Eastern time. For the first time, both boys and girls fields all feature top 25 teams coming up. These are the seedings. Montverde has won this thing a couple times. Findlay Prep has won this thing before as well. We do have one player in this game, in the McDonald's All-American game, who will be going straight to New York for Dick's Nationals. That's Alterique Gilbert, who plays for Miller Grove, the Georgia Player of the Year, on his way to UConn.
I give a big shout out to Kevin Ollie, coming from, being a former player, then becoming the new head coach after Jim Calhoun over at UConn, taking his team to the NCAA tournament multiple times, winning a championship in his short stint as a head coach. And you think about the backcourt that Alterique Gilbert and Jalen Adams are going to be able to form next year for the UConn Huskies. You talk about two guys that love to play fast and love to get in your pocket defensively, full court. That's what they both bring to the table.
Absolutely. Big shout, KO. I'll get up there to see you soon.
Journeyman in the NBA has turned into one of the best coaches in the country. Kobe Simmons on his way to Arizona handling. Here's Ferguson.
So a lot of times, a guy that played for a lot of teams like I did, what people forget about that experience is you meet a lot of people, players and coaches. You get exposed to a lot of different styles, a lot of different systems, and you become a sponge for information. Sure. And I think he was able to transfer that, as Jay mentioned, not only to a long career, but a successful coaching career.
I hear about guys in basketball and baseball specifically, not necessarily the 6th or 7th or 8th man, but maybe the 9th or 10th guy coming in off the bench as Jason Tatum gets his field goal. They're the ones who always make good coaches, assistants, and eventually head coaches, because they take all that info in. And
Jalen also, he had a name because of the relationships he had. He was close with Russell Westbrook. He was close with Kevin Durant. He helped coach those guys when he was playing in Oklahoma. So those kind of relationships help go a long way with some of these kids. These kids want you to reference those times or those thoughts with those kind of guys, because they want to be those players.
Kobe Simmons hits a 3. Allen leaves one short. Simmons kept it alive for Tatum. Gets the handle on it, and Jason Tatum with the right-hand hammer. 2-point game. minutes to go for this opening half of the McDonald's All-American game.
Oh, you're talking, we don't have a 75 to 71st half? We actually have a 47 to 49 game where guys are actually hooping and actually trying to lock each other up?
So much so, I haven't seen a dab yet. They're focused on playing basketball.
Hey, automatic ejection if you dab. I'm telling you right now, right? Let's get that in the rules. Josh Jackson with the three. He's got 9 in this first half.
What you love about him, that was an NBA move. He didn't waste the movement. He jabbed you. He watched what your hands did. His hands were down, and it was an easy jump shot.
But the key, and I'm glad you mentioned that, he didn't waste his dribble. So many young players, the first thing they do is just dribble the ball off of muscle memory, and you take away the option for triple threat.
Double figures now, my apologies for Jackson. He's got 11 rising up from the corner.
Mark Jackson would say, hand down, man down. Big shout out to Apple Jones, his mother. She is his #1 fan. She is everywhere Josh Jackson goes, and she's done a brilliant job. You know, yesterday, I was asking the question. I was trying to trap him, have some fun with him. I was like, well, is there a way you're probably going to go to a great defensive team, talking about Michigan State? And he said, yes, I want to go to a great defensive team. But, Jay, any team I go to, even if they are poor right now, they will be great defensively because I will be going there.
Speaking of traps, D'Angelo Russell played in this game recently. Really?
Man,
really?
Some things you just don't do. Some things you just don't do.
We'll get into that in the second half. Really?
I mean, hey, Ramona Shelburne was tweeting some stuff today about, like, hey, there's some legal issues that get involved with taping people in California. But, yeah, Jalen's got the view on that. We're also going to talk some NBA in the second half, what we got coming up on NBA Friday, too.
Nice pass.
Langford,
Too late.
a little too late for Josh Jackson.
Good effort, fellas. Good effort.
Josh Jackson had a great first half. He led all scorers with 11 points, one of our 4 undeclared players in this McDonald's All-American game. Lot of fun through the first 20 minutes. We still got 20 more to go. Jason Tatum, the #2 player in the nation, is with Quint Kasnick on his way to Duke.
What did you, Jason, what did you most enjoy about the first half?
Just the energy. You know, it's a lot of fans out here. Guys are excited to be here playing hard. I hope we got the jitters out and, you know, we play better second half.
You had success early in the paint. You went back to that move a little later and not so successful. What are you learning about yourself?
Just playing with other great players. You know, you got to make your moves quicker. Can't wait because these guys are good on both ends.
This time of year, months away from stepping on campus at Durham for Coach K and Duke, in terms of refinement and getting better, what's your eye on?
Just like you said, just getting better. You know, from the first day, you know, I always can improve on everything, on and off the court. You know, I'm just excited to go.
Thank you, Jason. Adam.
The great thing you love about Jason Tatum right there, he answered all the questions correctly, but you can tell he is angry because he's 0-4 with only 2 points. You'll get a better performance from him in the second half.
And I'm angry because I'm not eating popcorn from Garrett's. Can we work on that in the second half?
I got to tell them my apartment, man. We'll talk to you after the game, right?
That was awkward.
16 dunks total. It's awkward working with you two. You know, we'll talk to Lonzo Ball from UCLA coming up on the other side. It's halftime and Shot Time. Along the Chicago River, beautiful downtown Chicago for the McDonald's All-American Games. It is halftime at the United Center, and we're getting a chance to see some of the best guards in the country right now, Jay. Lonzo Ball is on that list, but De'Aaron Fox, Kobe Simmons, these guys have really impressed us over the course of the week.
Tariq Gilbert as well going to UConn, very explosive at 6'1". De'Aaron Fox reminds me a lot of John Wall, but no doubt about it, the star of this point guard class is Lonzo Ball. I give him the middle name Can, Lonzo Can Ball. He has great vision on the court, around 6'6", 6'7", plays very much like Jason Kidd. And you know where it is, Adam? He makes the easy play. You don't see a lot of kids at his age have the basketball IQ of Lonzo Ball.
And we get a chance to meet him in our 2016 Morgan Wooden Player of the Year feature.
My earliest basketball memory, played my first organized basketball when I was 6 at the YMCA. My dad put me in, and he coached the team, and that's probably the earliest I can remember. I just fell in love with basketball the moment I picked up the ball, you know. I love passing. I love making my teammates better ever since a young age. So that's how I developed into a point guard. And then ever since then, you know, just got better and better, and I just stuck with it. Some people can work very hard and not have any talent, and they're not going to really get too far. And some people have a lot of talent but don't work hard, and they're going to fall off too. But when you have both, then that's really special, you know. And I feel I have both of those, and hopefully I can take it as far as I can. My favorite player is LeBron James, hands down. You know, the way he flirts with triple-doubles every night and the way he just carries himself, you know, LeBron James is definitely that man. Actually, that was kind of a goal. You know, I came close to it last season, and with the new dynamic of this team, I thought I can really get it done. And this year, it actually happened. After City of Palms, that's when my eyes kind of opened up. You know, I was getting the attention. So then I thought, maybe this is doable. And then when I got it, you know, I was there with my coaches when they called me, and it was just a great moment. You know, everybody was jumping up and down, happy for me, and I just had a big smile on my face. I think being Player of the Year is just strictly an honor, you know, and it's an award given not just on the court, but off the court too. All the great players, you can go back. A lot of people that came to McDonald's have a lot of success in the future. So, you know, I'm just happy that my name's in this now. I'm just trying to win, you know, get up and down, hopefully throw some fancy passes to my teammates and just, you know, play and have fun.
Lonzo Ball from Chino Hills, California. He likely is just going to make UCLA that much better.
He most definitely is. TJ Leaf, decommitted from Arizona, goes to UCLA. They have a top 5 recruiting class. Steve Albert's done a brilliant job with this class. And the one thing you love about Lonzo Ball, he plays fast and he thinks slow. Look at that height, 6'6". If you put a little guard on him, you cannot speed him up. He plays the game at his pace, which makes him so special.
Reminds me a little bit of Kyle Anderson from a couple of years ago at UCLA.
Agree with you. Actually, a lot more agile than Kyle Anderson, can get into those gaps a little bit easier.
We'll have more from Lonzo Ball and the rest of these fantastic athletes, and we'll get a chance to see what happened when the boys visited the Ronald McDonald House earlier this weekend. Welcome back to Chicago in the 2016 McDonald's All-American Game. The house that Michael built, the Matt House on Madison, the United Center, and a very competitive first half, a 52-47 lead for the West. A couple of ex-Bulls sitting next to me, a couple of ex-McDonald's All-Americans, a couple of New York Times best-selling authors. I'm merely Adam Amin with Jay Williams and Jalen Rose. A couple of guys that really stand out. That's what we're always looking for 20 minutes in. A couple of guys that really showed up. Josh Jackson, Udoka Azubuike. Let's start with Josh, who's undeclared.
Josh Jackson had 11 points in the first half. And how about only 16 dunks in the first half? It wasn't that easy breezy first half that we're used to doing. But I'm going to take you through the arsenal of Josh Jackson. Ooh, defense smothering Jason Tatum. Got it. Ooh, mid-range. Check. Off the dribble, you want to see a little dancing? Floater. Got it. Up, jab, hand down, man down, got it. The complete package is the only words you can use to reference Josh Jackson.
Speaking of packages, how about one that's 6'11", 270? So you're competing on the defensive end, clearing out space on the offensive board. Not once, but twice. Get the bucket and the foul, and you see him again. Doing exactly what you want your big fella to do. And what his coach, Steve McLaughlin, told him to do in high school. Dunk everything.
Let's go over to Quick Kesnick.
6'11", 270. You're like double my size. I need a milk cart even to talk to you. You made a shift from soccer to basketball early in your life. Why'd you do that?
Just pretty much my height. You know, back home, like I was like taller than the average height. Like everybody back home, like wanted me to play basketball, and I just developed the, you know, I just have the this ability, and you know, today with my friends and my family member, they asked me to play basketball, and that's how I moved from playing basketball to from playing soccer to playing basketball.
7'5" with 2 blocks in the first half. Nice job, Adam.
Live from Nigeria as a freshman in high school, and he has turned his impressive stature into a threat on the basketball floor. This kid's fun to watch, and I think Bill Self is really going to enjoy them in Lawrence, Kansas.
When there's a big guy with his size, and he's played soccer at the beginning of his life, that helps a player out tremendously with footwork. A lot of times you see big men who don't understand how to reverse pivot down low on the block, don't understand how to move and shuffle defensively, but he has that due to the agility soccer was able to provide.
One of the most famous stories is Hakeem Olajuwon. Yep. He developed this footwork while playing soccer growing up.
As you see him with the offensive, cleaning up the offensive board for the putback, and also what gets overlooked is endurance.
DeJuan Huell on his way to play for Jim Larinaga in Miami, working on the block. 11 points for Josh Jackson to lead all scorers. Kobe Simmons had 5. Long-range shot won't go for Andrew Jones. First time we've mentioned Andrew tonight. Texas is where he's heading to play college basketball, from Irving, Texas. Texas, since 2010, has had 63 ESPN 100 recruits. UT has only grabbed 8 of those recruits, so that's a big get for Shaka Smart in that full recruiting cycle.
Shaka Smart changing the culture of Texas. Now, Rick Barnes did a heck of a job there. But Shaka Smart adds a new dimension, just trying to make them play faster, trying to make them value the ball each and every possession. And it was a learning curve for the Texas Longhorns this year, but they have nowhere else to go but up under Shaka Smart.
And also live up to the hype. They've had those recruiting classes, but we haven't necessarily seen them advance far in the NCAA tournament. So let's see if they can work on that.
Here's Zach Collins, who hit a 3 in the first half. Azubuike with the rebound.
Can somebody push Kansas? 12 straight years?
Like, you would have thought this was going to be the year. Well, let me ask you a question. Would you rather win the Big 12 or be in the Final Four?
Final Four.
Well, there you go. Well, Oklahoma's in the Final Four.
You know what happens when you win the conference and the tournament comes? Nobody remembers.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's been watered down because you have conference tournaments that really don't get the same appreciation because you don't get truly valued by the way you get seated in the tournament. So it almost becomes indirectly a money grab. You get more games as a player and you love the experience, don't get me wrong, but
I mean, heck, for mid-major teams, that becomes a killer for a lot of team seasons.
Yep.
Simmons to himself off the glass. Kobe Simmons. What does he represent? Jalen from Georgia? Little Alpharetta right there.
Absolutely. 3-0-0-2 tilt.
Out to Reed Gilbert and Frank Jackson. Jackson gets free after Simmons overcommits, and Frank knocks down another three.
That was old school, Jay. You reach, I teach.
Hey, you think about what Duke has next year. You know, they keep Emil Jefferson. He comes back. He's been able to redshirt. You know, they do lose Marshall Plumlee, but if Grayson Allen decides to stay, the backcourt right there, Frank Jackson and Grayson Allen. You got Matt Jones come off the bench. Luke Kennard, who was a McDonald's All-American, come off the bench. And you talk about Harry Giles and Jason Tatum. They will absolutely be loaded.
Jay, did you call down there and tell Grayson to keep his feet to himself? He clearly didn't play soccer.
He clearly didn't play soccer.
A talented young player. Saw him in this game, did a terrific job in the dunk contest and the skills. Has a big-time upside.
Azubuike bullying his way inside, but he ends up traveling with the basketball. After the game tonight, Sports Center at night with John Anderson and Steve Levy on ESPN. We'll have highlights from the NHL, spring training, NBA as well, as the Warriors continue to keep pace with the Chicago Bulls of 95-96. They had a win last night. We'll hear all of that and more with John and Steve on ESPN, also streaming live on Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. But last night, the Warriors did it again. Sluggish start against the Wizards. They come all the way back after a burst, come away with another win.
You know what's really amazing when you think about Stephen Curry? When I drive past parks, you're used to seeing kids try to go up and dunk or do all these things like that, at being athletic. Now I see kids in the park actually working on their handle and shooting threes outside.
I like
never used to see
when
that.
You're the MVP, people are going to follow you. And the things that he has people following is pregame working out on your handle. That's what I'm seeing other pro players copying his pregame ritual.
That's interesting.
And that's a real testament. And by the way, that jump shot, that long three that he shoots from the tunnel, that's from distance. He's shooting that from like 45 feet. If I had to make one of those before every game, I'd still be shooting sometimes.
Shoot about 35%, 45% from long range like that. Jay, I wanted to go back to this because you mentioned it. The McDonald's All-Americans in the Final Four, both the boys and the girls, the men and the women, well represented with McDonald's All-Americans. And I go back to that stat on the men's side. Since '78, only 2 teams have won a national title without a McDonald's All-American on their roster.
I mean, you think what the rosters were 2 years ago with Duke and Kentucky. I mean, you had over 15 McDonald's All-Americans in the Final Four, just dominating. And I think we'll see the same thing next year.
It's that type of class. Another one for Marquise Bolden. He's been the beneficiary of some good passing, and Josh Jackson with an assist. 3 dunks for Marquise, who's also undeclared out of Dallas, #2 center in the nation. Kentucky and Duke at the top of his list, along with TCU.
Yeah, TCU's still in there, too. TCU just fired Trent Johnson. As we mentioned before, hired Jamie Dixon. You know, Marquise Bolden said, you know, obviously that could potentially discourage him from going to TCU now. So between Duke and Kentucky, and all these kids here from both Duke and Kentucky are on Bolden every single day about his decision. I think he knows where he wants to go. He's just making everybody else wait.
Josh Jackson, kind of the same line of thinking too. I think he knows where he wants to go, but they're saving it. Bolden says he wants to announce before his birthday on April 17th.
But the beautiful thing is, why rush it? All these kids are free agents, essentially. Wait to see who decides to declare for the the NBA draft, who decides to leave, and if you want to have playing time and you want to have validation of how much time you are going to play, make your decision after that.
We've
Why
seen
not?
stranger things happen with injuries and whatnot, so if you have time and you really don't want to announce it, then I support that decision.
Inside of 16 to play, West with a 12-point lead. Here's TJ Lee from Lonzo Ball. A couple of future UCLA Bruins team up for two. Love watching Lonzo Ball.
Just makes the game so easy. I mean, how about just making an easy post pass? It's amazing how many young guards don't know how to hit the low post player in the hands where they actually want the ball.
Absolutely, and that was a soft touch by Leaf. And as you mentioned, the guards. Now, in today's game, each guard right now, practice your runner, practice your floaters. Giant killers down there. You got to find a way to finish when you drive towards the basket. You don't necessarily have the opportunity to stop. You got to do the play to shoot the basketball on the move.
Ball to Monk in transition. Lonzo Ball reminds me of Kyle Anderson, but you thought there was a little step further than Kyle Anderson for Lonzo Ball.
Well, I think his footwork is a lot better and his agility. He's more agile than Kyle Anderson. He's more fluid with his movement. And he does have a burst in his first step. I think they used to call Kyle Anderson slow-mo. Right, Anderson, and I think this kid has a burst to his first step that allows you to blow by.
Well, I like what you said. He plays fast but thinks slow. He can really break down the game while on the move as Tony Bradley scores to cut it to 10.
Well, even on that last fast break, he was able to probe by getting the ball to the middle of the floor and hit Malik Monk for an easy jump shot.
And also, I'm noticing when Fox has the basketball, players run because they see that he has really good vision. He'll get a basketball up. And plus, I root for left-handed number 5.
That's right. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you? With hair like that, too. I don't know if you could rock that in your day, though.
I could not.
You were always a close-cut guy.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
But you're talking about point guards. De'Aaron Fox, Lonzo Ball, guys who make other players around them better.
Yep.
And that's what good teams always seem to have. Look at Fox with his head up, looking to pass, and he gets Ferguson for 2.
And you're not making me better when we're in a hotel room and you videotaping our conversation. And it becomes for public consumption.
You're making the situation worse. That's what you're doing. Hey, you know what, though? You heard Byron Scott say it as you see the great pass right there once again by Ball to Monk. But you heard Byron Scott say it, at the time when he made these comments, he said, D'Angelo Russell is 19, but a lot of times he acted as if he was 14. Just because you make millions of dollars and you're an NBA player doesn't make you mature.
Another pass from Ball. Another point at the rim for Malik Monk. Another assist for Lonzo right there.
Giving up good shots to have great shots. And Ball's court vision, he passes guys open. There's sometimes where a point guard or any ball handler hold the ball to the last minute or the last second before they distribute. He gives it up early.
Ferguson will have a chance at a three-point play. Guys, I know you mentioned the Lakers. We'll talk a little bit about Kobe on the other side. Speaking of Kobe, Bolden puts one down, and then Kobe Simmons can do it to himself as well. A lot of good stuff here at the McDonald's All-American game. We've got more from Chicago after this.
Steph Curry
sitting at 67-7. Well, 20 years ago in 1996, I said this to you at the top, Jalen. Ben Simmons could be the #1 draft pick. He was in this game a year ago. In 96, Kobe Bean Bryant was in high school getting set for the NBA draft. 20 years later, he's closing out what's going to be a surefire Hall of Fame career.
Definitely one of the top 10 players easily of all time. But the best compliment I can pay Kobe Bryant is Michael Jordan was the best player of all time. And no question the best shooting guard of all time. Kobe Bryant's the remix. He actually is on his street. He actually studied everything about him, even his interviews, his body language, his post-up game, and he implemented it. Worked just as hard, if not harder, than any player that I've seen, and he deserves all the success that he's had.
Quinn Kessnick is with Jack Doss, one of our fine coaches here in the East.
We've never interviewed a coach here at the McDonald's game, but we've never had one with the personality quite like yours, Coach Doss. You're calling timeouts. You're actually trying to coach these guys.
No, I'm trying to rest them. We look pretty tired. So I wanted to shout out to their mom and dad what a great job they do. So I called timeout so they could see the sons play a little bit more and sit over here.
So what's it like to coach down in Alabama and you come here with all this talent? What's most fun?
Well, building a relationship with these young men. Like I said, that's been a great thing. They're great young men. They're going to do well and be successful in college. and they're playing hard for me. That's all a coach can ask. I'm living the coach's dream right now.
When we talked the other day, you mentioned how there's still a lot to learn. There's still a lot of details, intricacies, a lot of the little things.
Yes, they are. I wish I had another week or two with them. We've had such a great time, and they've asked for some coaching in our off time, but we don't have the time to do it. But like I said, it's just been a blessing to, you know, be a part of this. McDonald's has done a great job, and ESPN promoting this thing. I just thank you for the opportunity.
Langford bypassing a dunk. What's going on with that, Coach?
Well, maybe we need to reverse, and I interview you and ask you, what would you do if you was in my position?
It's got to be dunked. This is the McDonald's All-American game. Adam.
All right, dunk!
2 points are 2 points. It doesn't matter.
I love it, though. Jack Dawes thought he was actually going to coach Josh Langford. They play against each other, coach and play against each other in the state of Alabama. Jack already wrote out plays for Josh that he found out he's going to be on the opposite team. Love the representation from the state of Alabama. Terrence Ferguson almost went to Alabama. He decommitted from the Crimson Tide and Avery Johnson. He's opened up his recruitment process. We'll talk a little bit with Terrence Ferguson. T-Ferg, as Jay Will calls him, on the other side.
It's lights, camera, action. Everyone turn fashion. Make way for the superstar. Man, I wanna be a superstar. I wanna be on stage, for some page. Everybody knows I'm ready. Make way for a superstar. I wanna be a superstar.
The 39th edition of the boys game, the McDonald's All-American Games here in Chicago. We'll be back here in 2017. Josh Jackson has had a highlight night so far tonight as well. Jared Allen and Marquise Bolden are showing up. Terrence Ferguson is an undeclared player as well. He's currently with our Quint Kessner.
Yeah, Dallas native, decommitting from Alabama, and you said you got 5 schools currently on your list, Terrence?
Yes, sir. Arizona, Maryland, Kansas, Baylor, and NC State.
Have the visits, you're all done with visits?
I'm not all done with visits. I still have to take 3 more, which is, actually, I have to take 4 more, which is Kansas, NC State, Baylor, and Maryland.
So we got a lot of time here. It's not like you're in a rush.
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of time left. I mean, actually, I don't have a lot of time because signing day is probably around the corner in April. But once I get some time, I'll try to visit each school. I already took unofficial to Kansas and Baylor, and Maryland, so I probably don't need to go back to those, but I for sure need to visit NC State once.
When you reopened the process, you kind of starting over again, or were you maintaining relationships with those schools all throughout the process?
Yeah, I'm pretty much starting over, just to get my mind right, just more prayers, and more talk to my family, more outside opinions about the schools, you know, just clear my mind and see where my life goes from here.
Recruiting here at this event has been historically known to be pretty intense. You mentioned Kobe Simmons, I think, and a bunch of the other guys. How do you manage that?
Like I said before, Kobe's the number 1 recruiter at every college, every high school player. It doesn't matter. Kobe's the number 1 recruiter. I mean, he's in my ear 24/7. Every time I turn, he's there. I mean, but I appreciate Kobe. I mean, I like the effort he put in, and I see he really wants me.
Thank you, Terrence. Nice to know that Kobe can be an assistant coach when he's done playing.
Yeah, solid recruiting job so far from Kobe Simmons. He just came back from Arizona to Terrence Ferguson, said he really enjoyed his time with Sean Miller during that visit.
It's great for the players to have options and to take their time. And at this point, what is the biggest decision of their athletic careers and really their lives, where they're going to go to school. But that's also what gives collegiate coaches gray hairs, and why they get paid the big bucks. Nice Hessian jump shot off the dribble. Because he decommitted from a school. He just named 5 schools. 2 of them he didn't remember. And then he named 4 more visits that he's going to take.
Yeah, it's a process. You know, like I said, for all these kids, they have to take their time with the process. But you know what? You have to commend him for the fact that if his gut feeling said, as Frank Jackson knocks on that jump shot, if his gut feeling says that Alabama wasn't the right fit for him, I commend him by having the courage to pull out and do the right thing, talk to the coach, and then reopening up the process.
Markelle Fultz with a couple of nice jump shots. Hits a 3 right there from DeMatha High School.
I'll tell you another player that would really love to have Terrence Ferguson on the team. And his name, he couldn't be here because he got injured. His name is Dennis Smith. And that is a name for people to remember. He is going to NC State. He is one of the most dynamic guards we have in this class. He is scary talented. He can drop 30 to 40 to 50 points on you. You know, you talk about that. That kid is a name to pay attention to next year for NC State.
Mark Gottfried had a very solid college career himself. And then ended up going through that entire process and working towards the NBA draft too. Nice floater from Kyle Guy from Indianapolis going to Virginia, Gatorade Indiana Player of the Year. How about Virginia, guys? I mean, they're losing a lot, but they're going to bring some back. And now Markelle Fultz is starting to light it up from the outside.
That was a heat check.
Marquise Chris and DeJounte Murray both leaving, both declaring eligible for the draft. You think about what those freshmen could have been with Markelle Fultz. It could have been a scary trio.
Markelle Fultz, by the way, from DeMatha High School. While we had a moment, I did want to take some time to make sure we shout out somebody very important. That's Morgan Wooten, the legendary former head coach at DeMatha. First time he's missing a McDonald's All-American game since 1978. He's been to every single one. Can't be at this one because of an Achilles problem. He's the chair of the game. He's on the committee along with our Paul Biancardi, our director of national recruiting. So just wanted to shout out Morgan while we had a chance for this DeMatha grad who's got some impressive shooting field, but he is streaky.
I want to say we love you, Coach Wooten. Prayers to you and your family.
Indeed.
Your son Joe Wooten really represented you well last night at the banquet. You will be proud. We will see you next year.
One of the greats. Shaped the lives of so many players and coaches like Mike Bray. Mike Bray was a DeMatha grad before going to Duke as an assistant and eventually at Notre Dame.
And that's the thing that kind of gets overlooked when you see these players at this point and you know about their talent and their skill. But the only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. And there's so many hours that these people have put in to put themselves in this position and still will continue to put in. And I'm really impressed by it.
You know, a lot of chatter at practice the other day about all these guys wanting to be the first pick taken in the draft. And one of the players said, Joe, you know, who do you think is going to be the first pick taken in the draft? And you know, he said Ben Simmons. And I said, I disagree with you. I think right now I would have Brendan Ingram with the first pick in the draft. And I think Ben Simmons has a franchise-like skill set. I don't know if he has a franchise-like mentality. I think he's been very, very passive. And I don't know if a mentality is something you can groom. You know, either you have it or you don't. Now, he can still turn out to be a big-time pro. I just like the overall mentality of Brendan Ingram.
More bounce to the ounce.
We'll put a 10 up for that.
Al-Tariq.
We'll put a 10 up for that one right there. That's 10 worthy for Al-Tariq Gilbert. An 8-0 run.
He has a frame like a running back. I mean, look at that upper body.
Elevation.
Easy.
One thing about Al-Tariq, he is so quick laterally. You know, a lot of people don't pay attention to that. When you start getting into the NBA draft combine, which will be coming up soon, you know, they do all these agilities tests. They do them for a reason. When you have a guy like Al-Tariq Gilbert with that kind of lateral quickness, defensively, he can pester you an entire 40 minutes of a basketball game.
Think of what just happened. Okay, a 6-foot guy in the McDonald's High School All-American game did a double pump backwards dunk. I would venture to say that's the first time that's happened in the 39-year history.
15 dunks, boys. Or 25 dunks, right? 13 and 12. 25 dunks combined in this game so far. Flow and pace, very good.
Yeah, but, you know, it doesn't seem like every possession there's a dunk. That's usually what we've seen over the years at McDonald's All-American games. I mean, these kids are really competing. This is happening within the natural flow of the game. But, I mean, look at that. Al-Tariq Gilbert is picking up full court, and he's pressuring the ball full court. Yeah. You don't see that at All-Star games. That's what makes this class different this year. These kids are competing.
Jackson, another three, and a pump of the fist after he buries it.
He's a knockdown shooter, and I know as much as you want him on the ball, the way he can catch and shoot, look for him to play a lot off the ball while he's a member of the Blue Devils, the way he can stop and pop.
Bradley fouled. What did Reggie Rankin tell us yesterday, guys? Frank Jackson trending up. He's knocked down 5 threes tonight.
Well, it was really funny. Paul Bicardi was like, Jay, he reminds me of you. And I was like, I was not like that.
Hey, you didn't have
17.
That. You didn't have that, did you? You had the vertical.
I don't know if I had the vertical like him either. I mean, you look, he is a body of a grown man. I mean, his upper body frame, and he doesn't, I watch it all the time when he drives to the lane. He doesn't extend that arm. He just dips that shoulder into you. That's enough to drive you back towards the baseline.
your guys size-wise in terms of when you came from senior year of high school to freshman year of college, eventually into sophomore year with a year in the program. Jalen, I mean, we've all seen video of you. You weren't the biggest guy.
Not at all.
How did you get to that point like these kids are eventually going to?
And that's what you're going to see, because you're going to get exposed to a level of nutrition, a level of training, things you should be doing with your body, things you should not be doing with your body. And you start to take the game a lot more serious as the competition elevates. You're playing against the best of the best coaches. You are exposed to all of the things that can put you in a position to be really successful, and you have to take advantage of it.
Adebayo with a block of Jackson, who stays in the fray to keep that ball alive, and a reach-in foul on De'Aaron Fox.
Now back to you, Mr. Williams. You said something about the NBA draft that we're going to be covering soon,
I look forward to that debate with you in June.
Okay. Now, you mentioned a guy named Ben Simmons. Now, I'm not going to get on him about what happened in college and not being eligible for the Wooden Award because he's now an NBA player, right?
Well, I'm not worried about him not getting LSU to the NCAA tournament. That doesn't matter to me when I look at a pro prospect.
But it does matter to me a Player of the Year candidate is not eligible for the Wooden Award because you're not eligible.
Well, that was because of an academic situation, supposedly, that they had to remove it. But once again, we're acting like academics are the priority when the kid, we all knew the kid was only going to be there for 1 year. And for people out there who don't know, all you have to do is barely get by your first semester, and then you don't really have to go to class because you don't have to be eligible.
But you're also making my point. If that's all you have to do is take basket weaving and still be eligible, why is he the first person to be ineligible?
He's playing by the rules of the current system.
I think the school took his. If I'm correct on this one.
That's true. That is. I believe you're correct on that as well.
It's not the Wooden list.
But all that being said, we're talking about the system itself and how it doesn't exactly encourage in certain situations. I'm not saying every kid is like this, but in certain situations, it doesn't seem to encourage the classwork as much as it might encourage the basketball efforts.
Now, since we're going to talk about basketball efforts, I'm loving what I'm seeing. This pace, the alley-oops, the unselfishness.
Pace and flow. We've seen it all night long, leading to dunks.
One last thing. Well, speaking of education, I always joke with these kids. I'm like, how is your favorite class not math? All of you in here want to be millionaires. Well, learn how to stack your money. Learn how to understand that you get taxed in every city that you play in when you become a professional basketball player. You know, learn that you're in the highest tax bracket. Learn that your agent, gets 4%, but learn that you can negotiate with the agent for that 4%. You have to understand the business if that's what you want to do. Prepare to be successful.
We'll take a timeout with 7:25 to play. You guys have been talking a lot about the natural flow of this game and how guys are actually locking down to play some defense, some steals, some shot blocks, some rejections at the rim, some hustle.
On the floor for a loose ball.
Ben Simmons deserved to be #1. Me and Jay argue about it.
I can't wait. I'm here, and I'm frightened. We'll be back after this. Paul Biancardi said, you know who Frank Jackson reminds me of? Is a little bit of Jay Williams. This kid's built like a tank, though. We've been calling him Frank the Tank all week. 6'4", 195. Number 3 point guard in the nation with a really good outside stroke. He's had a great night shooting the basketball and extending the game inside the arc, too.
Has a mid-range game, can knock down shots from outside. Has the physical ability and athleticism to finish over the top of you. Still think he needs to add that floater to his game, find ways to finish over people who are a lot taller, more athletic. But there's no doubt about it. He has the mentality of somebody that wants to be better each and every day.
He's 5 of 7 from three-point range. The rest of the field in this game is 7 of 33. So he's been by far the most dynamic shooter in this particular 33-minute stretch so far.
Going to skip his Mormon mission, originally committed to Utah. BYU, decommitted from BYU, then chose to go to Duke. And once again, him and Derek Thornton and Grayson Allen and Luke Kennard are going to make one heck of a backcourt next year for Duke if Grayson Allen decides to stay.
TJ Leaf leaves one short on his way to UCLA. De'Aaron Fox is a Kentucky commit. Kobe Simmons on his way to Arizona. Bam Adebayo, part of that great Kentucky class as well. Duke and Kentucky have been 1 and 2 in some order the last 4 years. Here comes Monk, another Kentucky commit. Got up into the air, and so did TJ Leaf to throw one down.
Nice patient and pass by Monk. Nice finish by Leaf on the reverse.
Largest lead is 21 for the West, boys.
Speaking of John Calipari and how great of a coach he is and how brilliant at marketing him and his team, I mean, how about right before the Sweet 16 started, I was on Mike and Mike with both Greeny and Golick, and we weren't discussing the breakdown of the Sweet 16. We were discussing the fact that John Calipari made all of his players eligible for the NBA draft. He stole the whole conversation for the entire day.
And I want to check in with all of you guys watching. Tag ESPNU and MCDAAG. If you could play for any coach in college basketball, who would you want to play for? And Jalen, I got to think that kids that, and I know we've had this discussion before, and it's been kind of a trend now with Calipari, but these kids know that if I go to Kentucky, at the very least, I'm in position to go to the NBA. Not that you can't go somewhere else and be in that same position, but it feels like Calipari is going to do everything in his power to get you to that level.
Well, success speaks for itself with the multiple #1 first-round draft picks and overall successful players. He doesn't just have players that are on rosters. Like, he has all-stars. He has players that have gotten maximum contracts, and he was the first guy to truly own that when you come to college for 1 year, I'm going to get you ready for the next level. When at a time people were still spewing the fact that I'm going to turn you into a great young man and you're going to really do all of these great things for the university and check out the facility. He owned the fact that this can be a proving ground for you to get to the next level, and you don't have to put up big numbers. You can do it in a team concept. Look at what we saw with Willie Cauley-Stein last year.
Yep.
He was a lottery pick. He didn't have big numbers in college.
Hey, don't deflect on the question. Don't deflect on the question. If you could have picked Steve Fisher, who would you pick? Who would this 16-year-old Jalen Rose pick?
I want to hear this answer right after I tell you about my guys at Valpo, #1 seed, taking out George Washington NIT championship. I'm going to spew that for the rest of the night, too. Thursday at 7 Eastern. We'll take you to Houston after that for the Slam Dunk and Three-Point Championship on ESPN. Watch ESPN and the ESPN app. Great seasons, program record seasons for both Mike Lonergan and Bryce Drew this season. So what are you thinking, Jalen?
I would go to UConn.
You would go Kevin Ollie.
Kevin Ollie.
17-year-old Jalen Rose in 2016 would think Kevin at the top.
Absolutely, because I would be impressionable by his long tenure in the league.
Sure. He played with guys like LeBron in the league as well.
And also, he's already won a championship very early. There are so many great players and great coaches in collegiate basketball that have been at their school 20, 25 years, and I'm not going to say has only won one championship, but if you're there 25 years, you hope that you can get one. For him to come in and have done it already, that would be my choice.
Jay? I mean, listen. I know every Duke guy's loyal.
I can't say Duke because I played. Well, I can't say that because I already played there.
Besides Coach K, give me who would be in modern day 2016 college basketball as a 17, 18-year-old Jay Williams, who's an impressionable youth wanting to get to the next level. In that mindset, who would you go with?
The young me will probably come down between Bill Self and Calipari.
Okay.
About playing in Lawrence, so you got a chance to go see Kentucky play there this year.
Against Kansas at Lawrence Fieldhouse.
Yes, and I've heard Cameron at his loudest, and Lawrence was a different scenario.
Yeah, overtime game that night.
20,000+ people rocking and rolling, and it was an environment I've never witnessed before. It would be exciting to play Lawrence. I actually became a little bit envious of guys like, Darren, I'm drawing a blank on their names. It happens. The Kirk Heinrich and Nick Collison, there we go.
Okay,
the guys that were part of my class. There you go.
Jalen, I want to throw your eyes towards this. Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, Anthony Davis, guys we've seen that have floated through this game as well. The last 6 NBA draft picks, #1 picks, one-and-done guys during that stretch.
The thrill of victory. You see Karl Anthony Towns doing really well, a double-double, getting 2 blocks in Minnesota.
And I was going to say, those guys are guys who are maybe not all-stars yet, although Anthony Davis certainly is, but guys who are making impacts on teams in their first couple.
And also the agony of defeat, Anthony Bennett, who's not in the league anymore. And so while it's not 100% foolproof, it seems that if you play in this game and you're an elite player, you're on the path. And you feel that confidence. When I played in this game, I told myself, I'm on a path. And a lot of these guys are going to go away from this game continuing to want to work to get there.
Josh Langford with the blitz on the double team coming in. So the defense continues to play hard even at a 17-point All-Star game.
I think the one thing for all these kids to remember is that, yes, they are on the path, but the path can quickly change. if you make some wrong decisions. Me being here, I'm here one of them. You know what I mean?
But I'm looking at your book right now, and you know what this is like. You've
100%.
You've seen that door close.
But that's
quickly.
my point. It takes a bad decision to alter your path. And the thing that all these kids need to recognize is just because you got here at this game, this is a very prestigious privilege to be here. But you have not made it yet. I mean, you still have to have the same kind of hard work mentality in order to get to the next level. If you're at 1% right now, you're playing against the 1% in your class, you're trying to get to the 0.001% of the world in the NBA.
And just remember, to whom much is given, much is required.
Exactly.
Whenever you get confused, yes, you have a lot of responsibilities. Yes, it's going to be a lot tougher, but the reward is so great if you continue on that path.
Josh Langford finishes at one end. Tatum draws the bump at the other end. Our final 3:51 in the 39th annual McDonald's Boys All-American Game.
The 2016 McDonald's All-American Game is brought to you by the McDonald's All-American Games. The future begins at the McDonald's All-American Games.
Welcome back to the 2016 McDonald's All-American Game from Chicago, Illinois. Don't forget, on Friday, my man Jalen Rose in studio for NBA Friday, presented by State Farm. We'll see if LeBron's going to be dressed or not as the Cavs get set to take on Paul Millsap and the Hawks. The Celtics have had a really good second half of the season. The Warriors are getting tested tonight in Salt Lake City by the Utah Jazz. They're trailing in the third quarter. We'll see them take on the Celtics. ESPN, watch ESPN and the ESPN app.
And what about the development of Isaiah Thomas?
Yep.
Went from being what a lot of people consider the heat check type of player that couldn't lead a team, helping lead the Boston Celtics, and has become an all-star early in his career.
Jay, your McDonald's All-Americans that you feel, your top five that you feel.
They may be young, but they're ready.
They're ready. I mean, Harry Giles, Dennis Smith, they're not on this list, but I think these are guys that right now could come in and play for an NBA team. Jason Tatum, Josh Jackson, De'Aaron Fox, Markelle Fultz. I think he's a guy that can go lottery, and Bam Adebayo. You talk about a guy, Ben Wallace got $60 million for just rebounding and setting screens and playing hard. If he can get $60 million, Bam Adebayo can probably get $100 million.
No doubt about that. One of those guys on your list was Markelle Fultz on his way to Washington. He's with our Quint Kessler.
Yeah, DeMatha to Washington, not to Washington, D.C., but the other Washington. So a pretty long trip. Why that route?
It was the best fit for me. The coaching staff was good. The way I come in and play, it was just the best feeling for me. So
you have a story that's so unique. We were telling it yesterday. You got cut from the varsity as a sophomore. Is that correct?
Yes.
What happened?
We had a lot of great players there, and just at the time I wasn't ready to play varsity. So coach told me that I was going to play JV and just told me the things I had to work on, and I just did that and to get ready for the next year.
How do you best describe where you were then to compare to where you are right now?
It's a big jump. I got a lot more confidence. My shot has got better, a lot more athleticism. So it just, I became a better young man and a better player.
How will that experience impact you at the next level?
It should be really, really good because my work ethic, I think it's going to help me a lot. So I'm going to be ready to play next year.
Thanks, Markelle.
Malik Monk from Josh Langford, Quint. Good stuff from Markelle. He didn't make his varsity team until he was a junior. He went from 6 foot to 6'4" over the last 2 summers, and he's matured a lot. So now he's going to get to play across the country in the Pac-12 for Lorenzo Romar at Washington.
A level of patience and perseverance, too. A lot of time, because we live in an instant gratification society, you get cut from your high school team as a sophomore. They have a bad attitude, blame the coach, start working as hard. He did just the opposite, and he has a rating of 96.
We talked about Michael Jordan. We're in Chicago. That was a guy who got some shade thrown at him when he was in high school as well. He had to work his way to his varsity team in high school, and obviously churned out one of arguably the greatest career ever in this city itself.
Sometimes you have to be knocked down to learn how to rise up. And for Markelle Fultz, I mean, look, sometimes you need to be humbled as well. And he was humbled not making the varsity. And for him to come back and continue to work hard and to be named a McDonald's All-American, he understands, hey, this is great, but he wants more, and I appreciate about that.
But that's what gets overlooked. Every success story individual can tell you about a story of perseverance. That's what it's all about, how you respond to adversity in most cases.
I had a hangnail this morning. That was pretty tough. And I got to come to work with you two. So
that's extremely tough.
I mean, that's my day. Love to hear from Markelle Fultz, DeMatha High School all the way to the University of Washington. Lorenzo Romar continues to do good things. I know there's some talk in Seattle about him being on the hot seat at the University of Washington, but he brought in another great recruit. He's continuously brought in McDonald's All-Americans. He's got a young, energetic roster for next year. 9 underclassmen on the roster itself, plus a good mix of veteran guys. And there are always hot streaks for Washington. They just haven't been able to get over that hump the last couple of seasons. You get the sense that they may be primed with some real good talent next season.
Losing Chris and Murray, I think, hurts them. But I don't know. I don't think they've signed with agents yet. So if they haven't signed with agents, they can always go back to school, which I'm glad that, you know, we finally came to this agreement that we allow players to actually go into the NBA draft combine and actually be assessed. And look, if you don't get invited to the combine, they only invite players, then you know you go right back to school. And by the way, if you go to the combine and you don't perform well and you're not getting the feedback you want, then you can go back to school because you have 10 days until after the combine is over to withdraw your name.
You guys said that a year ago. We were sitting here and you both said, I think this needs to change. And sure enough, it changed for the betterment of the athletes. Is there a disadvantage for coaches? Yes, because maybe you don't know exactly who's going to come back. How is it going to affect who you offer a scholarship to? We understand that. But for the student athlete himself, it's pretty good, and it's actually a very good system, and there's a reason Coach Calipari is kind of pushing for that.
But your roster is forever evolving anyway, with recruiting, with injuries. So that's not going to hamper those that are really good at the task of putting together a team. And it's for the betterment of the game and for the players. So I applaud it, and I'm glad it is happening.
Knockdown shot from Josh Langford, Michigan State commit. First McDonald's All-American from Alabama since DeMarcus Cousins in 2009.
Boogie!
That was your man right there.
Hey, look, you have to give Josh Langford a lot of credit. How about he almost died at the age of 12 due to meningitis. So you talk about suffering from some adversity and bouncing back. You know, huge props to him for going through that at such a young age.
Mug for Langford. Oh, he tried the one-hand throwdown. De'Aaron Fox pushing for Simmons for Adebayo. Good pace, good flow. We've said it all night long. Just couldn't finish at the rim. Langford will go to the bench, and Josh Jackson, maybe a future teammate of Josh Langford. We'll see. He's back on the floor.
I just love the way he plays. We were at the Elite 24 game in New York City, and when I tell you he was trying each and every possession to defend. I mean, playing hard, always down in the stance, always attentive to where the ball is, and his man was always down. I mean, scrapping. It's almost like that Philadelphia-style basketball. He's raking hands when you come across the lane.
Yes.
He's always trying to hinder your vision. He thinks through every possession. I think his basketball IQ is one of the most underrated things about him. I mean, he gets a lot of fame because of what he's able to score points and how great of a defensive player he is, but he thinks the game through each and every possession.
Could be a tight MVP race at the end of the night between the Jacksons, Josh and Frank, who've had big nights tonight. Frank's got 17 points on 6 of 10. Josh Jackson has 17 points on 8 of 10.
And as you mentioned, hoops in Philadelphia, look across the court and see the godfather of hoops, Sonny Hill.
Sonny.
He rocks a hat that Future think is cool.
Speaking of Philly, big props to Villanova for making it to the Final Four. A lot of people were counting them out. They're my favorite right now to win the whole thing.
Who's counting them out? They're the #1 team in the country.
They were, but you know, a lot of people talked about the Big East and about, you know, the Big East wasn't as strong as the ACC or the Big 12, and they're going to get a chance to prove that.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that, but Nova was clearly one of the, I mean, defensively, they're one of the most efficient teams in the country, and they've got great guard. I mean, one of our guys in the McDonald's game last year, Jalen Brunson steps
exactly
right into that point guard role, and he didn't have a great scoring season consistently, but he was a major part of why they were so good as Ball finds Frank Jackson for the dunk.
Ball is a uniter. He's going to be the guy when it's time to go to training table. They're going to follow him. When it's time to go to study hall, they're going to follow him because he's going to feed you the basketball. And it seems like he's a person that passes guys open, and that's a trait that young players usually don't have.
35-0 this season. 18 times his Chino Hills team scored 100 or more points. That ties the California record. His dad, LeVar, owner of his own personal training business, big dude, 6'6", 270, played collegiate hoops. His mom, Tina, played hoops in college. They've both been super encouraging to all three of the Ball kids. They always played up. They're 6 years older. Guys 7 years older. They were always playing with those guys.
He's been watching tape since he's been a baby. That's
pretty much.
I mean, Aaron Holiday and Bryce Alford, get ready to get some shots up and move over and let this young man handle the rock because he will make your life a lot easier.
Jason Tatum in the final 45 seconds draws a foul 41.8 to go. Guys, I wanted your final thoughts. Maybe a couple players who stuck out. We know Josh Jackson and Frank Jackson. Who else outside of those two for the time being stuck out to you?
One last thing about Josh Jackson.
Go ahead.
We have 41.8 seconds left to go in the game. He has 17 points. He just stripped Jason Tatum going to the basket, and he's shaking his head at disgust because he's angry that Jason Tatum's going to get 2 free throws. That goes to show you the mentality of Josh Jackson. He's that much of a competitor.
And that's what I take away from this game, because he's going to swing the fortunes of a team depending on where he chooses to go. Out of Southfield, representing the 810.
Throwing one down. Who else, guys? 35 seconds to go. I'd love to hear who you think might be an impact guy when we start watching hoops in November.
Love Lonzo Ball. Love Markelle Fultz. Love Frank Jackson, the way he shot the ball today. Johnson, he hasn't scored a lot, but I give Bam Adebayo just because of his overall physique, the way he looks on the court, and how rough he plays down low on the block. He's going to intimidate a lot of people in the interior.
Jalen, what you thinking?
The guy with the ball, right there.
Ball to Monk. Oh, that would have been a nice cap to the night. Tatum? He doesn't want it. Adebayo will take it. 13.5 to go. East made it a close game at the end of this, yeah. Oh, nicely done. Lonzo Ball with the timing on the pass, and Monk throws it down. That's fun to watch.
An alley off the bounce.
We've got co-MVPs tonight. Why not? Because both guys deserve it. Frank Jackson had 19 points on 5 of 7 from 3. Josh Jackson, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists on 9 of 11 shooting tonight as well. Co-MVPs in this 39th edition of the McDonald's Boys All-American Games. Really fun to watch Josh Jackson go to work tonight.
Let's go through the checklist once again. Mid-range, got it. Passing ability, running, playing without the ball, got it. Check mark. Dribbling off the bounce, floater game, check mark.
Float on.
Hand down, man down, 3-point range, still something he can work on, but has it.
Frank Jackson from Alpine, Utah, going to Duke, Jalen.
Duke has a gem in this young man playing off the pick and roll. You see him knocking down a 15-footer from the right elbow. You see him from the right corner, doing it off the catch, one dribble, warm-up 3-point shot. Here you see that heat check. Shot down from Highland Park, and why not? It's 3 is more.
One question each.
I just like this prospect, and I think he's going to be a big-time player.
Both are co-MVPs with Quinn.
A pair of Jacksons. Frank, I want to start with you. What clicked tonight?
You know, I think we played well together. You know, we were unselfish. You know, we got out and had some fun. And, you know, threw a couple lobs and got the crowd going a little bit. But I thought we all played unselfish. We got the W.
Josh, what was going through your mind? You walk out of the tunnel onto the court as McDonald's All-American. What were you trying to prove?
It was, first of all, it was just an honor to be here. I've been watching this game for many years, and it just feels good to, you know, finally have my opportunity to play in this game. And, you know, I was just coming out and trying to get a win, and thank God for Alonzo Ball. UCLA, I mean, they got one heck of a player.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Adam.
Great stuff, Quinn. Thanks so much. Boys, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Watch Jalen Rose on ESPN on Friday for the NBA Friday doubleheader. My man Jay Will, as always, a pleasure. Thanks to Quinn Kesnick, the wonderful women and men of our crew here in Chicago. Adam Amin saying so long from the United Center. A fantastic week. McDonald's All-American Games, more high school basketball with Dick's Nationals starting up tomorrow. The Spurs set an NBA record tonight. The Warriors got tested. John Anderson, Steve Levy will tell you about it. SportsCenter's next.